Hello. It's been a while since I've sat in front of the camera in this fashion, so it's feeling a little strange to do this, but hi! We've come to the time where I do these wrap-up videos, except I was going to do it in January, but I just didn't really feel like it, so now it's delayed till now. I don't care. So yeah, I wanted to talk about the albums that I enjoyed last year, again, because that was something that I enjoyed doing. So, want to go through the music again. So it was fun. It's not like I owe you an explanation. I enjoyed doing it, so I'm gonna do it again. So yeah, I've got my little list here. I think generally I'm going to break it down by artist, because there's some artists that I've got multiple albums from. I'm not going to break it down in the same way as I did last year, because I don't have a clean breakdown from last year. Out of the, 14, 15, I don't remember the exact number of things I have, only 5 of them were actually released in 2022. Which is fun. So, but I mean, it's always good to dive into old music, and some of the music that I dove into isn't even that old. It's like 2021 stuff that I just got into last year, but that's just how it is. I don't really care that much. So anywho, I think I'm just gonna kind of go artist by artist. I was gonna start with the ones who I was already acquainted with their work before the album in specific. It's always dangerous when I have an implement to wave around and gesture with, because then I'm gonna be so, because then it really shows how much I move my hands when I talk, especially during videos, which isn't an inherently bad thing, but it's a thing. Anywho, so let's start with Semler. Last year's Semler was definitely the artist I talked about the most last year, I think, and they delivered an EP this last, I'm gonna keep saying this year when I mean last year. You guys will know what I mean, okay? If I screw up. They gave an EP in 2022, which was very fun. It was called Stages of a Breakdown, and it was kind of about the deterioration of one friendship in their life and just the way that stands. It was a really good collection of 5 songs that I really enjoyed, and it was just a really nice way to start out the year, because that came out in around February, I think. So that was unfortunately the only body of work Semler released this year, but they have promised more for... I think I said this year, and then I was going to say promised more for this year. Anyways, they've said that they're going to be releasing more in 2023. I just realized that one of the coils in my notebook is smushed. They promised to be releasing more in 2023, which I look forward to. I quite enjoyed all the songs on Stages of a Breakdown. So if anything, it's easier for me to pick one that I liked less. You're Not My Friend, while I think is really fun and serves its purpose on the EP 100%, isn't necessarily one that I go back to a lot, which I think is fair. But definitely Raise Up and Don't Tell Anyone, 100% favorites. But I mean, 20s and Outro are also super good, so I feel bad not mentioning them. But I mean, by that point, then I've just mentioned the entire EP, which maybe it means it's good. Next up, Lubalin. Lubalin is a Quebec-based rapper, I believe Montreal specifically as well. I mean, most people who do things in Quebec live in Montreal. But I have quite enjoyed his work for a decent amount of time. He kind of blew up a bit on TikTok, because he did some, internet drama funny things. The whole broccoli casserole recipe song is his. But he's also an incredibly talented musician in his own right, and he makes really good music. And he released an EP this year called Who's Love, which I quite enjoyed. Yeah. This year I was smart, and I highlighted favorite tracks as well to actually mention. I quite enjoyed it. It was a really fun summer EP, and I think it really showed his range as well. It was about, I think it was 7 songs, as well as 2 remixes that were included on the EP itself, both of which I really enjoyed. I quite actually liked. Normally I'm not as big of a fan of remixes, especially featured like normally, like especially on like a deluxe edition, I'll skip remixes and that kind of stuff because I always just like the one mix of the song. But I actually really enjoyed What If It's Not Enough and Paint Me a Picture having the two versions, which doesn't happen very often, and I think that says something special to his capabilities as a musician and the way he's able to like master and mix things to feel like unique again. Like you can listen to the same bass song but make it unique enough both times that you still enjoy it while it doesn't feel like one is a remix of the other, you know? So yeah, so I quite enjoyed those. My favorite tracks off of the album are those two, What If It's Not Enough and Paint Me a Picture, both of which I like. I enjoy both versions of both, but I think 100% my favorite track on, I guess it's technically an EP, but I feel like it's bordering on album length. It's a tricky gray area when you get like above 6 or 7 songs, but it's still not lengthwise like half hour for an album. It's a tricky gray zone. But anyways, Dougie Jones, 100% my favorite track off the album. EP, whatever the fuck it is. Whatever the gosh darn diddly doot it is. I'm sorry, children, cover your ears. I didn't mean it. King's Kaleidoscope. I guess it's also working out that I'm just mentioning the ones that actually came out this year to start with. I didn't intentionally do that. That was so clever of me. I'm so smart. I'm so smart. So, King's Kaleidoscope, a band I followed for quite some time. This is the first time, I think, though, that they've actually released a new album while I've been listening to them. So that's really, like, exciting. It's fun. It's fun when you get to have that feeling of, like, an artist you like releasing new music like that. The hype with this one was a little downplayed, though, because it was supposed to come out in, like, March, and then they delayed it because they wanted it to come out after their tour. King's Kaleidoscope is a very strange band. The lead singer, Chad, I forget his last name, he's a very interesting guy. And they made the choice to like not release the album before they did the tour for it because they wanted people to hear the songs live first, which is like understandable. He's a very interesting is I think the easiest way I can describe them, but they have a lot of passion for what they do, which shows in their music, which I really love. So while I was not like as hyped for Baptized Imagination as I would have been maybe if it came out when it originally would have, because I just kind of was like, okay, I guess I'll just like forget about it for a bit. Like I wasn't actively following it because they didn't actually announce like a time when it would release. After they delayed it, they were just like, it'll be after the tour. And I think the tour ended in like July, and it took them several months afterwards to still actually release it. So it kind of was just like, when it came out, I was like, oh, I'll give that a listen, I guess. And I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the songs off of it, and it's definitely grown on me over time. When I first listened to it, I was kind of like, it's an album. But especially some tracks have very much grown on me. Wasn't I Worth It and Water Wasted are definitely ones that stand out to me. But also the lead like the singles that they released beforehand, like Joy and You and I Again, which I actually was able to listen to before the album came out and like was able to listen to for most of the year, were very enjoyable as well, and I really like those. So, yeah. Next for this clean line of succession is BDG's Songs with Videos Without Videos. This feels a little bit like a cop-out because these are songs that were all released, and it's just that like this so happened to be the year that it actually like he released an album with those. But I think it's very fun. David Gilbert, if you do not know, is an incredibly talented all-rounder. It's Tweaky this time, not Jocelyn. Interesting. Incredibly talented all-rounder, used to work for Polygon, now is doing his own thing, and he's killing it. He kills it in everything he does, and musically as well, he very much does, so I'm very thankful to have his music very accessible now. As it suggests, there are songs that had videos, but they're without videos when on a streaming platform such as Spotify. Some of my favorites from there are I Wish I Could Wear Hats, Siblings, and Shingle Jingle. I so desperately want and I wish that Give Up on Your Dreams of Becoming a Baker was on this album so desperately, so I hope it gets released after the fact, I hope, I plead, I pray, I beg, because Give Up on Your Dreams of Becoming a Baker is such a good song. Anywho. Now we move into the artists I'm still acquainted with, or was still previously acquainted with, but this is older work of theirs. So for those keeping score, we just had the period of artists who I was acquainted with who released new music this year. We are now going to artists I am already acquainted with who did not release new music, but music that was new to me. You following along? Mm-hmm. Lifehouse. Lifehouse is one that I have I've been aware of Lifehouse since my childhood, because No Name Face was a very widespread album, especially Hang by a Moment, which is arguably their most popular song, and very, very much hit mainstream, which is impressive. Oh my gosh. Twiggy and Jocelyn are here. They're just sitting, like, staring at me. What the hell, guys? What's the big fuss? Twiggy went out. I don't know if Jocelyn's going to. The answer's no for now. She'll scream. So, Lifehouse. So I'd listened to No Name Face, obviously, and I really liked No Name Face. I listened to the EP that they made. Oh, I don't remember what year it came out. Anyways, listened to that EP. Also really enjoyed it. I listened to Stanley Climbfall. I enjoyed it as well. It just didn't work out cleanly to, like, be talked about in a video like this, but I enjoyed Stanley Climbfall. And their album after that, which was self-titled, the album Lifehouse by Lifehouse, is no different. I enjoyed it. And it's... I wouldn't say I got into it as much. Like, with Stanley Climbfall and Lifehouse, I never got into it as much as No Name Face. I think No Name Face is really easy to sink your teeth into, and it's really easy to, like, love every song on it, at least in my opinion. Whereas with Lifehouse and Stanley Climbfall, the songs kind of grow on you at their own pace, and it's just by hearing them a couple times that you're like, oh, I actually like this, and it's nice when a song from that comes up on my playlist. Hi, Jocelyn. Scoop. So yeah, Lifehouse, this album is no exception. I enjoy it. Twiggy's back. Oh my gosh. It's just a circus in here. Quite enjoy it. It's quite good. So yeah, I'd say favorite tracks off of there would be Undone and Chapter 1. Yeah, overall, pretty solid album. Penny and Sparrow. Now, Penny and Sparrow, for a decent amount of time, because they just released their 6th album this year, but that's not the one I'm talking about. Oh, I said this year again. Or maybe... Shh, you're not helping. I don't remember when they released it. Anyways, they released an album called Ollie Ollie very recently. And, like, their newer stuff just hasn't been quite my pace. Maybe if I gave it another listen, I would feel differently about it, or I'd at least be able to pick out a few tracks that I liked. But, as of now, haven't been able to. So I'm not going to, like, force myself to like it. But I really love their 3 albums in between. I love, Struggle Pretty, Let a Lover Drown, and Wendigo. 3 very good albums in my opinion. So, and I'd listened to Tenboom previously. I'd listened to that a while ago, and I just didn't like it at that point. So I was like, maybe I can give it another shot. It's like, maybe I will feel differently. And I did feel differently. I really loved the album this time around. And sometimes it just, like, music will hit you at different points in your life, and sometimes you will like it, sometimes you won't. And in this case, it just needed time. So I really enjoyed Tenboom. I liked getting to sink my teeth into it again. And because I really love Penny and Sparrow's writing style and the way that they do music. They're always very soft songs, but they've got really... Okay, Jocelyn's back already. Very nice lyrics that I think are really easy to sink into and appreciate. So yeah, and Tenboom was no exception this time around. Favorite tracks, I'd have to say, are Heroes and Monsters and Patience First. Jars of Clay is next. Jars of Clay, Inland. That is their most recent album, possibly their last album. it's unclear because they're kind of still together as a band, but also not doing much. But anywho, Jars of Clay, I've been aware of my entire life, but I'd never really, like, sunk into Jars of Clay. And I'd listened to Fall Asleep off of the album a while ago, like years ago, and had that in my playlist forever. And eventually I was just like, you know what, I'll give the rest of the album a listen. And I guess it must have been this year, then 2022, last year, whatever. Blah. Regardless, really enjoyed it. I thought it was a really, really good album. And it kind of similar to No Name Face in my opinion, where it's like really easy to just sink into the individual songs, but it also feels like a really good unit together. Yeah. So favorite tracks off of it, I'd have to say, are Inland, the title track, Loneliness and Alcohol, and Left Undone. Okay, congratulations, folks. We have now made it. Let me just like make sure I'm not losing my mind on my list. We have now made it to talking about artists that were new to me this year, just in general. I think mostly. That's true. Yes. Okay, so the one artist who was new to me this year, who actually released music this year, was Miki. Shit. What is their first name? Oh, where's my mouse? Okay, I think it's Miki Ratsula. I might have butchered it. Anyways, in that vein. And the album's called I Owe It To Myself. Really enjoyed this. They are someone who, I don't think that Semler's collaborated with them on music, but regardless, they run in similar circles, like event-wise, and like are aware of each other. So by proxy, I went to seek out Ratsula's music, and I quite enjoyed their album. Thought it was really nice and like had a lot of nice themes that I enjoyed. Kind of reconciling the idea of they definitely, while I would say Semler leans a lot more like queer Christian area, I think Ratsula mostly talks a lot about kind of transgender themes more in that way. But I mean also just in general music. They don't talk about music, but like they also just cover more general themes. But they do kind of handle the like gender feelings more, which also like is really nice to hear in music. So yeah, I quite enjoyed the album. Say favorite tracks off of there would be Suffocate, Second, and The Garden. Okay, now we're entering the time of artists new to me this year, last year, new to me in 2022, that the music was not new last year. This is a poor way of organizing this video. Maybe next year I'll do better. Okay. I don't even know who I have left to talk about. I guess it's just easy to talk about Enny songs of Wallflower. Similar to Miki Ratsula, a Semler adjacent type person in the sense of like running in similar circles and kind of doing like background vocals and touring stuff with them as far as I know. So I was like, I'll give Enny album a listen. And I did, and I quite liked Songs of Wallflower. I think it's a really nice, easy listen. She's got a very, like, I don't know, like, fantasy folk feeling to her, kind of, which I quite enjoyed. And yeah, overall, I just thought the album was really good. She's got a very lovely voice that, like, goes well with kind of the softer songs that she does. I'd say Sandbox and Home are definitely my favorites off the album. I think the album starts off incredibly strong with those. I don't know if those are both the tracks that start off, but I know Sandbox is the one that opens the album and is definitely my favorite off of it. I think Sandbox is a really, really good start. Yeah, quite enjoyed the album. Okay, Charlotte Cardin. I never know if I should actually pronounce things right with the French, or do I even know how to pronounce it right with the French? Anyways, Charlotte Cardin. She has collaborated with Lubalin in the past, and collaborated with him on a track, Phoenix Reprise, which I really enjoyed, and had enjoyed significantly before I had listened to Phoenix Deluxe. I just listened to it as a single. But after I'd been like, oh, she's collaborated with Lubalin, she swept the Junos, I was like, let's find out what all the fuss is about. And I mean, the fuss was pretty accurate. It's a pretty good album. I quite like Phoenix. I went with Deluxe just because I always stray towards, like, the options with more, and also because Phoenix Reprise is my favorite song on there, and it's technically only on Deluxe, not on the original. I'm not a huge fan of albums with Deluxe editions, because to me it feels like it kind of undermines the original album a little bit if there is that kind of secondary experience to it. But I can see the other side as well, where it's better than trying to cram everything onto one album. Like, if you have one succinct album that you're happy with and then kind of have the bonus material as the deluxe edition, I think that is also understandable. I can see both sides of it, but generally I think it's really satisfying when an album is just the length it needs to be and is just how it is, like no bells and whistles, no ifs, ands, or buts. But regardless, Phoenix Deluxe I quite enjoyed. Yeah, I don't have a ton to say. I'm not like a music critic by any means, I just like music, so I thought it was pretty good, and I'm excited to see what she does next. I imagine I'll dive deeper into her discography at some point, so maybe some more of her albums will be showing up next year. But I'd say favorite songs off of the album would definitely be Phoenix Reprise. I do quite enjoy a few others, though. I'm not agreeing with the tracks I put as my favorite on there anymore. I like... Okay. We need to get into it. Okay, Phoenix Reprise is definitely my favorite track off the album. I quite like Sad Girl and Good Girl. I think Sun Goes Down, Buddy, is also one that I enjoy. And Anyone Who Loves Me, which is the one I originally had, but I was like, I feel like I like other ones more than that. Anywho. So that brings us to the end of our single album gambits with artists. Now we come to the final two. Woo. So, the last two we have on the docket are Hayley Heynderickx and Lucy Dacus. Now, these two I actually saw in concert this last year, which is really fun, and also part of why I dove so deep into their discography, because I wanted to have a full scope of the artist when I would see a concert, and especially because it was my first concert in a while, and I wanted to be excited for it and know the music. So yeah, so I'll start with Heynderickx. Heynderickx has got the 2 EPs plus the 1 album. I did listen to Among Horses 3, but I just didn't include that one in this one. For me, I got into it in a more of individual song basis, and definitely was more as a whole. So, I mean, if for whatever reason that really strikes me again in the future, I'll talk about it, but just know I'm not maliciously excluding it. I have listened to it, and I enjoy it enough. But I just wanted to focus on these ones. I'll start with the EPs. Fish Eyes is a really great EP that I love. It's just a solid 4 songs that I quite enjoy. I really love all the songs on the EP, so it's really hard to choose a favorite. If I had to, I guess I'd choose Sane, but I think that all the songs are really strong, as well as Unpeeled. Now with Unpeeled, it's only 2 original songs, and then 2 live covers from pardon me. 2 live covers from I Need to Start a Garden. But I really enjoy both of those versions of the songs, especially Untitled God Song live. I think is really, really nice on Unpeeled. But I think the 2 originals on Unpeeled are really good as well. Big Ol' Miyazaki Tears and Construction at 8 AM. both very solid songs, so I think it just makes for like, a solid EP. Sometimes it can be like easy to skip over artists' EPs and just want to focus on their main albums, but I think there is... Twiggy... You know, I'm gonna make Twiggy pay the toll. Come here. We don't get to see Twiggy in videos often because normally it's just Jocelyn on my lap, but anyways, here's Twiggy! He's Twiggy! Yeah! Oh, do you not want to be on the video? I don't think he wants to be on the video. Okay. You are free. But I think there's really something to be said about EPs in the way that an artist, like, knows what they're setting out to do and just is able to release, like, a smaller collection of songs that really works. Like, I don't think that it's inherently worse than an album. Like, while there's, like, it's nice to have a longer album in that way, 100%. I think that EPs are also really valid and strong because it shows an understanding of the work you're trying to set out to do, and if it's just shorter in length, it just is. And I think that's admirable to not, like, laser focus yourself into not doing that. So, yeah. And then I Need to Start a Garden is an incredible album from Hayley Heynderickx, her only album at this point, which I hope so desperately changes. The thing with Hayley Heynderickx is that she has a lot of music, it's just that not all of it is recorded. Like, she played at least, like, half the songs she played at the concert were ones that were not recorded, whether they were just older ones that had never been recorded or even just new ones that she had been still writing. And I was like, I want these. I want these in a consumable fashion. Because I keep, like, every once in a while I'll get, like, a recommendation for a new Hayley Heynderickx song that I haven't listened to just because it's a YouTube video version. Like, she's performed it live in this one place, and you hear it, like, Ride a Pack of Bees, Run Villain Run, Ayan's song, like, all those ones are not officially recorded, but they're really, really good songs as well, which I really love. So I'm hoping that she does record more music soon. I Need to Start a Garden came out in 2018, which is a while, and I think that her last recorded piece of music was Among Horses, which was also 2018. Yeah, I don't actually know if Among Horses happened after I Need to Start a Garden. But regardless, it's a shame that she hasn't actually released recorded, like, new recorded music and since 2018, but I hope that that will change soon, hopefully. I Need to Start a Garden is an incredible album that I love a lot of the tracks on it. Bug Collector is 100% my favorite track, but I think No Name Face is a really solid opener as well that I enjoy. Ms. Dacus. Lucy Dacus. I forget how I first became aware of Triple Dog Dare, because that was the first Lucy Dacus song I listened to, and I liked it to start with, but I wasn't sold on it yet, and then it just grew on me very strongly over time, because every few weeks I'd be like, what was that song again? And I'd look it up and I'd listen to it again, and, like, it's really, really good. It's really good. So I listened to the whole album, and I was like, this is pretty good. The whole album is home video. I was like, this is pretty good. So I listened to the whole album, and then I realized she was coming to a city that was near enough to me, and I was like, you know what? I haven't been to a concert in forever. I'm going to a concert. So then I dove into the rest of her discography, and I was not disappointed in the least. What is the easiest way to go about this? I guess we'll go chronologically for this last one. So No Burden by Lucy Dacus, an incredible album. I think a very, very good debut album. And it's really hard to not like. Like, you can tell it sounds different than Historians and Home Video, but it's in a way that I appreciate getting to hear the difference. And it's not a bad difference either. It's not like I think this album sounds bad, but there's a bit of a different feel to it, which I really, really enjoy. And yeah, I love a lot of the songs on it. It's really fun. Favorite songs off the album, definitely Trust, Troublemaker, 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 Doppelganger, and Strange Torpedo. But the whole album is really, really strong. Moving along to Historians. Historians is really good. And, like, I think her most popular album, regardless, has her most popular song, Night Shift. But it is a very, very strong album. I think that it comes together very smoothly, and I love how it flows really well. I have nothing bad to say about Historian. Yes, the album, it's tricky because the album is called Historian, and then the closing track is called Historians. It's tricky. They try to get you. They try to deceive. But yeah, I really love Historian. Favorite tracks are The Shell, Body to Flame, and Next of Kin. It was really fun to get to hear. Did we hear Shell live? I don't think we heard Shell live. There was a few songs from Historian, which was really fun to hear live, though. Addictions was one. I also enjoy it, but just didn't necessarily make the cut of the top. Addictions was fun to hear live, and I think we also heard Yours and Mine live, which was really nice. 2019, the EP by Lucy Dacus. Very fun. I think that it's fun how it was a bit more like concept-y in the sense of like each themed around different holidays. It's got 3 original songs as well as 4 covers on it, and all of which are really enjoyable. Fool's Gold, definitely favorite, but I think Forever Half-Mast and My Mother and I are also really strong songs. I think all the covers are really fun. I think Lucy Dacus does a very good version of Last Christmas, and arguably the only tolerable version of Last Christmas, because it becomes like a rock ballad instead of this like sad little twangy guitar thing. So I enjoy it. And then Home Video, the most recent album by Lucy Dacus. I quite enjoyed Home Video. I don't want to compare them, but I think that just in comparison to how much I like No Burden on Historian, Home Video falls a little shorter than them in that way, but I think that Home Video is still an incredibly strong album, and like just because I enjoy her previous ones a little bit more doesn't mean I'm like, I wish she would go back to the good old days when she was good. Like, you know, I can acknowledge that like I have a bit more of a liking to certain albums while still really liking this one. So yeah, Home Video, quite enjoyable. Triple Dog Dare, definitely my favorite. So, but Partner in Crime, also a strong song. And also, it's just full of strong songs. It's a very good album, and it feels a little concept-y in that way as well, where it's a lot about people in her life. And like, you kind of feel like each song is written about a different person in that way. At least more explicitly than artists already do. Which I really enjoyed. So, I very, very much look forward to whatever Lucy Dacus endeavors into next. I'm assuming there will be no solo Lucy Dacus album this year because of the Boy Genius album, but I will gladly take the Boy Genius album. Unfortunately, I did not get into Boy Genius last year, but within the past few weeks, I have, so you'll be hearing about them next year. So, that concludes our little rabbit hole down the albums I enjoyed last year. I feel like it was a longer list than last year, so this is probably going to be a longer video. But I hope that it was, you know, organized enough that it didn't feel rambly, necessarily. Or at least it was better that it had an amount of organization. But, so anywho, thank you for joining me along the way. Hope you're having a good New Year so far, even though it's already February. January just kind of went by in the way that months do. Anyhow, toodaloo, bye-bye, bonsoir.